you want some water?
Sure, yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Let's get right to the point. Your brother's dead.
What? I did not know that.
When was the last time you saw him?
A couple days ago. You know, it's go-kart racing. Nothing big. Normal day.
Why are you go-kart racing?
Celebrating a promotion that he had gotten.
To captain?
Yeah.
Awesome. Did you kill him?
What? No, not at all. No.
Why'd you wink?
I spot him. Get him every day.
Yeah, sure. Do you happen to own a gun?
Nah, perhaps, maybe.
Is it Navy issue?
I want a lawyer.
Okay. Are you done with that?
Yeah.
Okay. We're done here.
All right.
Please rise. The Court of Second Judicial Circuit, Criminal Division, is now in session, with the Honorable Judge Hayden presiding.
Everyone but the jury may be seated. Miss Brown, please swear in the jury.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will truly listen to this case and provide a true verdict and fair sentence as to this defendant? You may be seated.
Miss Brown, what is today's case?
Your Honor, today's case is the People versus Reynolds.
Is the prosecution ready?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is the defense ready?
Yes, Your Honor.
Members of the jury, Rupert Reynolds has been charged with the crime of murder. The information alleges that on May 4th, 2020, in Washington, D.C., the defendant, Rupert Reynolds, did kill his twin brother, Raymond Reynolds, in violation of the United States law. To this charge, Rupert Reynolds has entered a plea of not guilty. The prosecution may state their opening statement.
Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, opposing counsel, my name is Lieutenant Commander Mary Webb, and I am here to represent the people of Washington, D.C. The defendant, Commander Rupert Reynolds, did, in fact, kill his brother. And here is how. It was a dark night, and the two brothers had just gotten off the ship for leave, where they went go-kart racing. When they were go-kart racing, his brother told him that he had just gotten a promotion to being captain instead of commander. Now, this made Rupert very, very jealous, so he decided to kill his brother because he got promoted instead of him. He staged it to look like a suicide, but the evidence shows that Rupert killed his brother. For example, Rupert's fingerprints are the only prints on the gun, and he owns a gun and his brother doesn't. As you can see, most suicides involving guns are only point directly at the side of the head. But this was committed execution style, where there were 2 shots in the chest and 1 in the head. This wasn't a suicide. This was murder.
Now, the defense may state their opening statement.
Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, opposing counsel, my name is Lieutenant John Schumann, and I'm here to represent my client, the defendant, Commander Rupert Reynolds. My client did not kill his twin brother, and there is no evidence to prove that he was anywhere near the crime scene when the murder occurred. The last time he saw his brother was at dinner, and after that, they went their separate ways. Because identical twins also have identical DNA, that does not place the defendant at the crime scene. And also because they're identical, that means fingerprints might as well be thrown out the window. There is no evidence that the defendant killed his brother. And that's why the defendant is not guilty. The victim committed suicide.
Thank you. District Attorney, you may call your first witness.
Your Honor, the people call Will Zimmerman. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Is your name Will Zimmerman?
Yes, it is.
Please spell your last name for the record.
Sure. Zimmermann.
You may go to the witness stand. How are you employed, Mr. Zimmerman?
I'm a medical examiner and forensic scientist for JAG and the U.S. Navy.
How exactly was the victim killed?
By 3 gunshot wounds, 2 to the chest, 1 to the head, execution style.
Is that possible for a suicide?
Not likely. It would be very difficult to point a gun at your head and your chest from right in front of you. When someone commits suicide with a gun, the wound is typically right above the ear on the side of the head.
Were there any fingerprints on the gun?
Yes, they were the defendant's fingerprints. No fingerprints from the victim.
Do identical twins have identical fingerprints?
No, they do not. While they have the same DNA, their fingerprints are slightly different from each other.
How is the defendant's mental state?
He failed a psychological evaluation. He is not considered insane, but is considered mentally unstable, likely unstable enough to kill when angry.
Did the defendant confess to this crime?
Yes, Commander Rupert Reynolds has a confession tape.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Defense counsel, does the defense wish to call any witnesses?
Your Honor, the defense counsel calls Commander Rupert Reynolds.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Is your name Rupert Reynolds?
Yes, it is.
May you please spell your last name for the record?
Sure. Reynolds. Reynolds.
You may go to the witness stand.
Mr. Reynolds, prior to the incident, how were you employed?
I was a commander in the United States Navy.
And when were you promoted to that position?
In 2017.
What about your brother, Captain Raymond Reynolds?
He was promoted last week.
Where were you during and before the time of the murder?
Before, I was eating dinner with my brother, and then we walked out and went our separate ways.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Cross-examination, District Attorney?
Mr. Reynolds, do you own a gun outside of military means?
Yes, I do.
Is that gun a pistol?
Yes.
Does your brother own one?
Maybe.
Are you sure?
I don't know.
Security footage shows that you and your brother did not separate ways when you left. Did you guys leave together?
Objection, Your Honor. That evidence was not reviewed.
Objection overruled. Lieutenant Commander Webb found the evidence right before the trial started. Continue, Miss Webb.
You guys left together, right?
Yeah.
So you lied earlier.
Your Honor, that was not a question. That was more like an accusation.
Objection sustained. Ask it as a question instead of an accusation.
Yes, Your Honor. Did you lie earlier?
Yes, I did.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Reynolds, you may step down. Any additional witnesses on behalf of the people?
The prosecution rests.
Defense counsel, does the defense wish to call any witnesses?
The defense rests.
Members of the jury, the evidence is undisputed that the defendant, Mr. Reynolds, shot his twin brother dead. The evidence shows that Mr. Reynolds, who failed his psych eval, was so furious that he shot his twin brother dead. He was so mad that his brother had gotten the promotion over him, so after they went go-kart racing, he killed him and tried to call it a suicide. Then he lied under oath after a written confession stating that he was nowhere near his brother at the time of death. Also, Rupert's prints were the only prints on the gun. The gun was not military issued, and twins have different prints. Rupert owns a gun that is not military issue, while his brother doesn't. It's not like his brother stole the gun because Rupert's prints are on there, and only his. If he had wiped it clean, then there would be no prints at all. This wasn't a suicide, ladies and gentlemen. This was cold-blooded murder.
Defense counsel, you may proceed with your closing argument.
Members of the jury, my client, Mr. Reynolds, is not guilty of his charge. Every man has the right to bear an arm, and his brother clearly stole the gun from Mr. Reynolds. He lied here today because he was scared and intimidated. Please do the right thing and vote him not guilty.
Thank you. Jury, here are your final instructions. You must decide the guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. All of you must vote guilty or not guilty. Otherwise, there will be no verdict. It will be a hung jury.